Hello, I'm Kads and welcome to today's video. So today we're going to be talking about my fusion plan for Oella here, the upcoming fusion from the Sylvan Watchers Legendary Support, Magic Affinity. So a quick review of her kit. On the A3, we do have fill the turn meter of all allies by 30% and place increased resistance buff. This is a 3-turn cooldown when booked. On the A2, she's going to heal all allies by 30% of their max HP, not hers. And she's going to increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn, which does mean that you will permanently have increased resistance, provided nobody dies. On the A1, she has a 100% chance to place decreased speed, and it can't be resisted if Ultan of the Shell is on the same team, but most likely that's not the case, so it's just a 100% chance decreased speed that requires some accuracy. On the passive, whenever an ally loses 50% or more of their max HP in a single hit, she's going to place a continuous heal on that ally for 1 turn. It's going to be 2 turns, and it's going to instantly activate 1 turn of it if Ultan's on the same team, but again, that probably won't happen because you might not have both. Resistance in dungeons by 75 is the aura. Now, the missing piece that we had last time we looked at her were the base stats, and she has a healthy chunk of HP, 21,000, and a healthy chunk of defense, and a excellent amount of speed, 110. So you can build her really, really fast with a good amount of resistance, and she might just bring in a new meta of increased resistance. We'll kind of see. I think she's going to shake things up a little bit, and once people play around with her a little bit more, but we'll have to see what actually transpires once she gets into the game in a couple of weeks. So she also has a bonus of 20 resistance because everyone starts, or all champions start with 30, so she has a 20 there. And yeah, overall, I like the stats. I still give her the same grade, maybe instead of a B-, now she's just kind of a B because the stats are better than I thought. But it's still kind of the main gripe being the irresistible aspect of the A1 requiring the companion, who, speaking of which, is in the Dark Elves. So we have Ultan as well of the Shell, Legendary Attack Champion, who you can get from the current Champion Training Tournament. That's not part of the fusion if you top out, but good luck with that. I'm definitely not fighting that hard. But what he does is on the A1 has a chance to decrease defense. It will ignore some resistance if he's with his partner, but again, that might not be the case. It's more likely if you do the fusion that you're going to have them both, but you're still going to need to acquire him in some way, shape, or form. On the A2 has a decently hard-hitting single target ability where he removes all debuffs from himself, so a full cleanse on himself, and he's going to heal by 20% for each debuff removed, which can easily be full health depending on the situation. And he's going to place a shield on himself, and the value is equal to any surplus heal from the skill. So if he removes a ton of debuffs, then he's going to have a massive shield on himself. So he's going to ignore shields when he finally does attack, and then the damage also increases by 20% for each debuff removed. Very hard to set up. I mean, he pairs well with like a Gerptuck, Mossbeard, but in most cases, when you take a bunch of debuffs, you're going to be dead or controlled, and you're not going to be able to cleanse yourself if you are CC'd. He also has an AoE sleep on a 4-turn cooldown here. It can ignore some resistance again if he's with his companion Oella, but I wouldn't plan on having that combination. And he can fill his turn meter when the sleep debuff expires. Now, he suffers from the same problem that a lot of nukers have when they have some sort of CC or major important debuff, is that the Resurgent Mastery can proc, and thus it can remove the debuff as soon as it's placed, and thus rendering that ability somewhat useless. So you can build him to nuke and to sleep, and there's a good chance that anyone with a tier 2 or tier 3 mastery can just remove the sleep as soon as it's placed because you hit them too hard. So it's not as reliable as you might think for nukers with CC abilities. On the passive, he has a 15% chance of decreasing the cooldown of one of his skills when he's healed by a continuous heal, and it's 30% if Oella's on the same team. And he has attack aura in all battles by 30%. As far as base stats are concerned, pretty high base attack, 1550. HP is middle of the road, a little bit on the low side, I guess 15k. Decent speed at 101, and he has the crit damage bonus that you would expect from nukers. Overall, I don't really see where he would be used in the game, and I don't understand why they're companions, because the only part, like, they don't synergize at all. The only overlap they have is literally the forced overlap of their abilities needing each other in some aspects. So he's kind of sitting somewhere around like C as far as a grade goes in my book. In addition to the 2 legendaries, we also have the Fusion Epic and Fusion Rare, which are somewhat not notable in my opinion. But Maruka here is an orc, and she has a 4-turn cooldown, Revive on Death. She has a single target cleanse and heals them by 50% on a 3-turn cooldown, and then she can place decreased speed on a single target. So not the best. And yeah, she increases her defense when she's hit up to 20%. I don't know. I don't know what she's supposed to do. She doesn't do much. She can be like your de facto revive on death champion for Sand Devil, maybe. That's about it. And it's on a 4-turn cooldown. If that was a 3-turn, maybe that'd be more viable, but only, I think only Mother Cybele has that on a 3-turn cooldown. So it's a pretty rare ability to have, Cardiel as well, actually. But it's pretty rare even on epics, and I don't know, she just doesn't really do enough. She's somewhere like on D tier for me. The fusion rare is actually kind of cool. I don't think he's going to see much play, but nonetheless he does have a decent kit. He has a weak version of decreased attack on the A1. He has an AoE increased speed weak version on all allies, and he can place a veil on all allies except for himself, and he places a shield on himself equal to 20% of his max HP. He is defense based, and he has a decent amount of defense considering he's a rare of 1200. HP is pretty high. Speed is quite low at 95, and he has a little bit of bonus resistance. So I don't think he's going to see much play because he is a rare, but he is a pretty decent rare, I guess, compared to most of the rares in the game. So now let's talk about the Fusion event calendar provided by Plarium. There's a couple of noteworthy items here to discuss holistically. So first off, of course, that there is no available epic, so you cannot even get Maruka from any event or tournament. So you have to do everything else if you do want to complete this fusion, which for a lot of people can definitely be a turnoff. So I totally understand if that is the straw that breaks the camel's back and you still want to skip this. Again, I don't recommend skipping fusions. I will be going for her regardless, but I can totally understand if that is the deal breaker for you. In addition, the Summon Rush is going to have 2 rares instead of the rare and the epic, so there will be some associated milestones with that. We have a super long Dungeon Divers, which we have not seen before, or at least one of that duration. We have a double champion training event near the tail end of the fusion, which is always a good thing because that means that you can be training, or you can be leveling up the fusion champions near the end of the fusion, which I always enjoy. There is no champion training tournament that is part of the fusion. There is one live right now, but it is not part of the fusion, so it is not required for the success or the to obtain Oella. And the only noteworthy pinch point here, which normally there's a bunch, but in this case it's really just the overlap of Spider and champion training kind of in the middle of the fusion. Everything else is relatively spread out and parsed, so you don't really have to there's not much of an energy sink or energy overlap, and we'll see that as we hop over into the plan. So like I said, here we have the fusion plan. I've charted everything, all the events and tournaments, as you can see, including the shard events as well. So we have the shard events, 2x Void starting tomorrow. We have the 10x in the following weekend that will coincide with the Summon Rush. We will also have a CVC coming up that should be non-personal rewards, but that's yet to be confirmed, and so it's subject to change. It wasn't relevant for Pythion, but I did also include all the potion keeps opening in case you need to farm them. In this case, it would be the Magic Keep, the Spirit Keep, and the Arcane Keep. Well, Arcane Keep's open at all times, but those are the potions you would need. So quick note on the potions that I do actually have a tab here in the spreadsheet for the fusion potions, or a calculator for the fusion potions. So in this case for Oella, we do have 4 epic magic affinity champions and 16 spirit rares. And so that equates to these totals you see here. So these are how many potions, greater, lesser, and superior, that you will need for the fusion. So you can pause the video here or take a screenshot for your reference. So going over the milestones and what I predict here, I'm going to be conservative this time around, and I'm just going to assume the 2250 across the board for all of the dungeon tournaments. Sometimes they do 2050 or 1800 depending on the difficulty of the fusions or fragment summons, but in this case I'm just going to conservatively assume 2250 across the board, and they can prove me wrong with lower milestones. Classic Arena has always been 390, so I expect that to stay the same, and you can see here that there is no champion training tournament that's part of the fusion. There is one live, and there is the opportunity to get all 10 of the shell. Below that, we do have the Champion Chase tournament starting tomorrow. I'm expecting the standard value of 2,500 for the rare, and that should cost you roughly on average 30 voids. You can obviously offset this by summoning some Fragment Summon champions or fusing some things, and I will be doing some combination of that tomorrow myself. I will be summoning Ramontu, so that's going to be 650 because he is a Void Legendary, and I might be making either a Broadmaw and or potentially a Relic Keeper as well. I'll kind of decide that. I don't want to spend too many voids, but I also want to pull some voids, so I'll decide exactly how to do that tomorrow or maybe over the weekend. We do have Dungeon Diver that's live already for 3750, and it is a 4-day event, which is pretty standard. I do recall noting that last time we had 3350 for Python for a 3-day event, which was above average, but 3750 for a 4-day event is pretty on par with the normal rates that we've seen. Granted, we've never had a 6-day Dungeon Divers, at least not since I've been playing, which is about just over 2 years. And so I'm extrapolating based on what we've had in the past, and I'm predicting that that's going to be around 5,700. That's not based on anything except previous values, so we'll see what that actually becomes, and that'll be good information for the future in case we have more 6-day Dungeon Divers events. For artifact enhancement, I'm expecting a standard 3-day event where it's going to take around 3,300 points and cost around 20 million silver, so hopefully you guys have enough for that. The champion training events are kind of interesting. 3-day events are not typical during fusions. Normally it's just one long 5-day event, but we already know, and we had one just before the fusion, that a 3-day event will typically have a legendary tome at 9,000 points, and that will be the top end, meaning that the fusion rare will be somewhere along the way, and I'm guessing that's going to be somewhere around 5,000 points. If the event was still live in the game, I'd be able to look at the milestones to see what the actual values are and kind of just guess where the rare would be, but it's already closed because the event ended. I already got the tome, so we'll just wait and see until near the tail end of the fusion to confirm those values. And lastly, of course, we have the dreaded summon rush. So I'm expecting a standard value of 7 sacreds for this. I understand a lot of people expect it to be 10, but realistically speaking, we've only had the 10 sacred requirement or the 4925 down here for Python twice, and one of them was Python. The previous one was Marinix. Basically, all the other modern ones have been 3,500 or 7 sacreds, so I'm expecting us to go back to the norm in that regard. I'm putting 1750 as the lower one for the first rare. It could be 2150, but it doesn't really matter because you have to get to 3,500 anyway, unless you pull some of the rares just from Ancient Shards or something, or Mystery Shards. However, don't forget that you can offset sacreds with 500 mystery shards. So I have like 5,000 mystery shards, so I plan to just kind of sit there and run through about 1,000 maybe just to save a sacred or two, just because I can, and I have a ton of mysteries. So this will, for me, this will probably be closer to 5 sacreds, assuming we need 7. And last but not least, we have down here my energy plan for the fusion. It starts off with a mix of IG and champion training, and I will be going for the legendary tome in the champion training tournament, not for Ultan of the Shell. We have a little bit of crossover with that and Fire Knight, but if you're skipping the champion training tournament altogether, you're just working on Ice Golem, and then you move smoothly into Fire Knight on Sunday. Then we transition over to Spider, and then we have that pinch section or pinch point I was talking about where you have the overlap of Spider and champion training. And then we have the end of the fusion with the divers where we get to focus dragon and then a little bit of additional champion training. Next, let's talk about the current events in the game. But first, I do want to highlight my supply count so you guys can keep track of that as the fusion progresses. But I do have 4,255 gems and just over 37 million silver. So for Ice Golem, I was in quite the unique position for once because we were able to win our personal reward CVC, so I had that large chunk of energy, the 2,400 that you guys saw a few days ago, and I spent all of it. I spent all of it on Ice Golem, a little bit extra from yesterday's reset as well, but you can see here I'm 2,800 points. I'm already done, so that's literally done on day 1, which is why on the fusion plan I didn't have any more IG. So not all of you might have done that strategy where you save that energy, you might have used it already, or you might not have won your personal reward, so you got a lot less. But for me, I was able to take advantage of that win and basically knock out Ice Golem in the first day. So Ice Golem for me is completed. And with that, that allows me to go all in on the champion training tournament. Now, when I say all in, I do not mean competing for Ultan of the Shell. I just mean getting the legendary tome as the tome chaser that I am. So I have all my energy to spend over the next 4 days, or 4 days and some change, to get the tome here at 10,000 points. So the way I plan to do this is obviously using all of our daily accrued energy, but I do also have some energy stores from for example here, the Tag Arena tournament. I got a couple of nodes there, but I also have in the inbox, we have the 400 energy we got from compensation for a couple of days ago, as well as some other energy nodes from tournaments and events. Of course, I do have my plethora of energy refills and the gem count that I already mentioned. So all of those will be used, or not, well, not all of them will be used, but all of them are available to be used over the next few days to make sure that I get that legendary tome. In addition, Dungeon Divers has already started as well, and I obviously got a huge chunk of that from Ice Golem, just over 2,000. So I plan to do the rest of it with champion training. And if I fall short over the next 4 or 5 days, or I guess 4 days for this one, but if I fall short over the next 4 days, then I will probably fill with some spider or something before this ends. And for those who might have been curious about the Fire Knight tournament, I did fight a little bit, but the last couple hours I had to go to sleep, so I ended up taking 3rd place. So I got a bunch of silver because I sold all the gear. But you can see just over the immortal or eternal soul essence there. Funny story actually is that my team that I pitched to you guys stopped working after the Errol changes went live, and he got a magical AoE that started to hit really, really hard. So I actually ended up dropping down to stage 16 with a much faster team that took about 55 seconds. Still like double cold hearts and whatnot. So I dropped down to stage 16 and I just ran that endlessly for that day yesterday, and that's how I got to 2100 points. Alrighty, so that's going to do it for today's video. Best of luck to all of you who are going for this fusion. Hopefully you have enough resources to complete it, but if you're skipping it, then feel free to do whatever you'd like to be doing over the next 2 weeks. And of course, once again, I do have to send out a massive, massive thank you to all of you guys, the viewers and the subscribers, because we have now passed 500 subscribers. So we have quintupled my subscriber count in the past 2 weeks. So thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the love and support, and the road to 1,000 is looking very, very open. As usual, if you found this video helpful, then be sure to drop a like down below. And if you enjoyed the video or others on the channel, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and help me get to that 1,000 milestone. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.